Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Strong Draws. My name is Brett Strong, and today I'm going to be working on the pencils for the book I'm working on, Light Earth, issue number 3. So, I said I would do this in real time, and then later on there will be a sped up video. Um, as of right now, um, they're about to launch the Kickstarter campaign next month. Right now it's June 28th, 29th. I believe that Kickstarter for the third issue goes live July 19th. I'm not sure on the exact dates. I will get the exact dates and put an annotation and or link in the description to that campaign when it comes around. So as of right now, excuse me, I haven't received the script yet, so I don't know exactly what's going on in the third issue. I just finished up the line art for issue 2 yesterday, and so all I had to go on was kind of their description of what they wanted the cover to be. They have a lot of variant covers, and a lot of them are just kind of cheesecake stuff, I guess. They wanted more of a storytelling cover, but not having the story. I'm not exactly sure what happens, but they did say they wanted the one of the characters on the cover, and then they wanted kind of a storytelling cover. So, kind of what I learned from watching or listening to Neil Adams. I'll get started here. To design a cover, the best thought process to go by is to do a storytelling cover and a quote-unquote kind of iconic image cover. And I don't mean like Image Comics, I mean just the image on the cover should be considered somewhat iconic. So kind of the description they gave me was they wanted this character on the cover, and at least I guess they didn't even say they wanted her on the cover. They wanted a storytelling cover that kind of, how did they put it, shows that she's going to lose a bit of her naivete, however you say it. So, kind of the concept I came up with, excuse me, I think I got my allergies are kind of running havoc on me lately. So the idea I had was to have this character walking through fire, and her gown and what have you is going to be being burnt up and flying away and all that good stuff. So kind of the idea, the artsy-fartsy idea behind it was if this issue is going to be her trial by fire. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. I don't think it's going to be too terribly tough. It's just the character walking, and then fire and stuff. It's actually going to be kind of similar probably to a t-shirt design I kind of did. Well, I did do it, but it's going to be kind of similar to it, where it was an angel holding a skull, but her wings were disintegrating behind her. And I gotta make sure I get this size right, because I want to leave enough room at the top for the title. So just to kind of remind myself that there's going to be a title block up here. And I think it's okay if she kind of goes over top of it a little bit. I think that always kind of adds a little bit of depth and dimension to the piece. But because all I'm planning to do with this one is just have a black background, so there won't be any detail back there. I'm actually going to have to look up what her costume looks like exactly, because I haven't drawn this version of the costume for a while now, so I'll bring it over here. Yeah. I do have my second monitor open so that I can, because eventually, right now the whole image is on the screen, but eventually I am going to zoom in, and having it open on another screen is going to help me, because then I can make sure I get the size just right and proportions and all that good stuff. Actually, I don't know why I'm looking in that file. Page 3. Excuse me. I also do have my fan running. It is kind of warm out right now. Here we go. So if you can hear that fan in the background, I apologize. Like I said, it's pretty warm right now. I don't know which screen this is going to open in here. There it is. Alright, I'll get it brought over here. Computer's lagging. Alright. Okay. I forgot there was multiple layers to this kind of dress she's wearing. Ooh, getting laggy on me here. So we'll have her hair flying up like the fire's blowing it all around. Sleeves kind of poofy, but they're going to be all singed and kind of burnt away a little bit. And we'll have the fire kind of radiating out from under her feet here, and it'll kind of go over in front a little bit. So actually I'm going to move her down just a little bit. We'll have some flames trailing off in the background a little bit here up in front. Alright, so I'm thinking I like that. I might tweak it here and there a little bit more later on, so I'll turn it blue. Do it one more time. Make a new layer. So you guys seem to like me doing these real-time drawings. I don't know how long this one's going to take. As of right now, I have a few hours with the house to myself, so I know I'm not going to be interrupted. And to be quite honest, I do enjoy doing these let me make her head bigger. These real-time videos where I can kind of talk to you guys and walk you through what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But a lot of the problem is trying to find enough time to have the house to myself, to where I know I'm not going to be interrupted. So, and it's actually a little later. I don't know if you guys can see the time once I get this put together, but it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm actually getting started a little bit later today than I usually do, but I'm not expecting this cover to take me too long today, and this is kind of all I have to do as of right now. I should get the script for issue 3 tomorrow, so until then it's just all I got to worry about right now is this cover. And at this stage, I'm more just kind of worrying about placement and proportion and composition. Start to figure out the anatomy a little bit more, but not too terribly worried about making everything just perfect yet. Weirdly enough, the hardest thing about doing these real-time commentaries is trying to think of stuff to talk about, because there are times I get lost in kind of what I'm doing as far as drawing here, and not really digging this hand. Sometimes I forget that I'm actually recording audio, so if I go silent for a little bit, I apologize. I'll try and think of some stuff to talk about. Speaking of things, I just downloaded, excuse me, the Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut, or Director's Cut, or Ultimate Edition, or whatever they call it, yesterday, and spent last night watching that as I was finishing up the last page of this issue. And I gotta say, I liked the movie as it was. I liked the theatrical. I enjoyed, I think it caught more shit than it deserved. Yeah, there are things wrong with it, and some of the story elements don't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, but and a lot of people like to blame Zack Snyder for that, and I think I've kind of covered that a little bit, talking about it. I don't really feel it's his fault. I think I covered that in an earlier video. But I gotta say, after watching the Ultimate Director's Cut version last night, there are some things that made a lot more sense. Now, it's only a half hour longer, and I didn't think a half hour was going to make that big a difference. But as it turns out, there was just, like, I don't know. Maybe I missed a lot in the theater. For some reason, I was having issues that day, and I had to leave the theater and use the bathroom like 6 or 7 times during that movie. I mean, yeah, it's a fairly long movie, but I don't know what was going on with me that day. So I don't know. I'm going to go back tonight and rewatch the theatrical cut of it and see if there's just stuff I missed because of all the bathroom breaks I had to take that day. But there's just, it seemed like the motivations were a little more clear to me. I understood a little bit better why Superman was so pissed off at Batman, and again, I probably shouldn't talk too much about it because I might come off sounding like an idiot, but I don't know if in the original cut they kind of discussed as much about the guy in the wheelchair. If you haven't seen the movie, there's going to be some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know what you're doing, but there was a whole part that like I said, I don't know if I missed it or if it was just extended in this version, but where Clark was interviewing the wheelchair guy's, I think it was his girlfriend. Yeah, it was his girlfriend. And it just, like I said, it seemed a lot clearer why he was so pissed at Batman. I mean, it didn't help motivate the fight, which again is kind of weird, but it made it a little more, like I said, it just made more sense in the long run to me. So, these I'm going to tear up here. Originally, I think I had them. Yeah, 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 I think I had them. Yeah they just poofed out and kind of wrapped around her fingers, but I'm gonna, like I said, I want the fire to kind of look like it's destroying her gown here. So this will actually be all tore up. Then this part will come down here. And that'll get all tore up too once I get to the final product. Her feet are huge. Let's shrink those down. So anyway, again, I really enjoyed the movie from my first viewing. Again, despite all its flaws, but the director's cut, like I said, for me cleared things up a little bit more. And I'm gonna rewatch the theatrical version tonight to make sure that I just didn't miss anything the first time around, or if it actually explains more in the like I think it did, like I think it does. So. I did something here. What did I do? There we go. So this will all be black in here. Now I won't be inking this. This will be at least 2 videos. At least, you know. One will be penciling, one will be inking. Usually inking takes me a little bit longer because I don't do my pencils too terribly tight anymore if I'm going to ink myself. These will probably be a little bit tighter just because it's a cover image and I want to make sure it's all on the up and up. Have her hair flying back and up and out and all that good stuff. So they'll be, I'll do the 2 real-time videos. Maybe I'll upload this today. I don't know yet. But I'm not going to be coloring this for the cover. That's going to be handled by the colorist on the project. Although if it turns out good, I might, just for shits and giggles, do my own colored version. I mentioned in my last video that I've been looking at working up a sketchbook of some of my work over the past few years, and get them printed up and in book form and sell those. So might do a colored version of this just for that purpose. Like I said, and I've mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of coloring. I don't like doing it overall, but every now and then to do a pin-up or a cover image, it's fun. So like I said, I just might do it for my own enjoyment and for practice and all that good stuff. So we got the fire going a little bit. Alright, overall I think I'm pretty happy with that. Kind of zoom out so you guys can see what I'm seeing on the other monitor here. Actually, I think I can make her just a tad bigger and leave just enough room for that title treatment. And this is one of the benefits of working digitally, is being able to tweak everything to get it just the way you want it. Kind of working on the fly as well is one of the benefits. If I was doing this on paper, I would have had all this part, size and proportion, placement of the figure figured out much more closely, or more accurately, so I wouldn't have to tweak and stuff like I'm doing now. But doing it digitally, since I can design and adjust on the fly, it's not that big of problem. To be honest, I did actually want to do this cover traditionally. I wanted to do, pencils and ink on artboard. But as of right now, my scanner is out of commission, and I just don't have the time to find a place to scan it and run it down and do everything that way. And I also wanted to make a video of me making the cover, and I was going to try and figure out how to do that um, while doing this traditionally with either my phone, or actually at the moment I have access to a really nice little camera, kind of a GoPro type situation. But again, I just didn't have a way to get it into the computer, and I don't have time to figure that whole process out of how to get it scanned into my team in time. So, because as far, drawing digitally is fun. I mean, I really enjoy it. Like, there's a freeness to it that I have mentioned before that I really enjoy. And again, since you can tweak and adjust and perfect everything without having to do a dozen different, ideas, it kind of takes the pressure off and just makes the process a little more fun. However, part of the fun of drawing on paper is I guess I don't know if you want to call it excitement or fear or whatever you want to call it, of knowing that you have to get it more or less right within a few goes, just because if you erase too many times, that paper's going to go go to hell on you, and it's just, it's not going to turn out worth a damn. Let me zoom out and flip her around, make sure I'm kind of where I want to be here. Yeah, she's a little lopsided, so let's... That looks better. And that's the other thing, like, being able to draw backwards if I was doing this on paper, I would use a mirror and then tweak, but I would have tweaked that positioning before I got to the final pencil stage. If you hold up a mirror and stuff to it, you'll get a good idea of where you're at. Or hold it up against a window, or get a light box, or whatever you need to do to be able to look at it in reverse is always really, really helpful. The only thing I'm really terribly worried about being symmetrical kind of is her head. The rest of the body, it's very, very seldom symmetrical, and sometimes having it asymmetrical is a way to show weight and movement. So if you get too hung up on making it too perfect, it's going to look kind of dead and boring. So try not to make everything 100% perfect. Don't get lazy and not make it good, but it doesn't have to be just right. Bring this side of her head in just a bit here. Fix her ear. Ear's way too big. Actually, there wouldn't be a shadow under her chin. I don't know why I put that there, because the light's coming from beneath her. So the shadow I put in here makes absolutely no sense. And always keep that in mind. Keep in mind what you want your light source to be. Again, the sooner and the stronger the light source you have, that you kind of establish, the easier time you're going to have rendering out your piece as far as shadows and what have you. Now these are kind of where the final pencils are going to end up looking like. Like I said, it's not going to be too terribly clean. I'm getting to ink myself, so I can clean that all up later. Her neck is a little too thick, I think, here. Let's thin it up just a bit. Yeah, that looks good. I might thin it up a little bit more when I get into inks. We'll see what happens. So she got this frilly stuff, which is actually incredibly easy to draw. I think it intimidates some people when they see it, but you just do these ziggy-zaggy lines like this all the way down. Try to keep them even as much as you can. And they don't have to be perfect. Again, the more perfect you make them, the more fake they're going to look. Having a little bit of variety is going to make it look a bit more real. But try to keep them at least looking somewhat consistent. Don't get too far out of control here. So then we're going to zoom in. We're just going to do these lines. Just bring them pretty much straight down to where they would attach to the collar of this dress. Time consuming, but as you'll see, when I'll pull back out or zoom back out here as soon as I get this side done. I'll zoom out and you'll see something that looks really intricate and cool is actually very, very simple. Zoom back out. Let's see, and there you go. Okay. Again, they don't look perfect, and I don't want them to. They look a little bit better if they're not. A little bit more natural. Now the hair, I'm going to save. I'm going to do that on a different layer later on. Just because then I don't feel, again, just take some of the pressure off and I can experiment with it a little bit more. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do with it, but as always, the best laid plans don't always work out, so sometimes you have to improvise. Got kind of these shoulder patty things here. Actually, I don't like. I think I had them all kind of meeting more at the bottom, so we're gonna. Actually, your shoulders were really wide if I do that, so let's. How's that look? Let's look a little bit better. Clean this up a little bit. I like what I did on the original, so I'm going to try that with the sleeve here. Now, folds and close are really, really tough. I think it's still something I need to spend a little more time of study on, and I plan to in the next few weeks. But for now, I have a fairly decent grasp. What I keep seeing, or what I've been trying, is if you do these triangle shapes, you kind of get a cool effect, except for right there. Just kind of, again, keep referencing my original piece here. Like I said, I've drawn this character a bunch, but I think this costume she wore, the one I'm drawing right now, she only wore for a couple pages. So I haven't had as much time to practice with it as I would like to before I have to draw a cover image. But you just have to do it, make do. Just keep hacking away at it until it looks right. Alright, so we're going to start trying to see how this works to kind of tear this up here. Bring these lines up. Too big there. Just kind of bring it in a little bit. Add some holes. Come in here and just add some frayed stuff. And again, I'll probably tear this up a little bit more when I get into inking. Anymore, I find pencils for me are just more of a guideline. And when I get to inks, that's where I really kind of solidify everything properly. I mean, I gotten to the point that I don't even do any rendering or lighting on my pencil work. I just figure it all out in the inking stage. And again, with this one, it's a pretty established light source that it's all kind of coming up from underneath. Her hand is too big here. Shrink it down and actually bring it in up a little bit because her hand's looking a little long. Arm's looking a little long too. That might be too small. Actually, to be honest, I don't like this hand at all, so we're just going to try it again. Kind of bring it out. Let's see how this works. Nope, don't like that. Let's get rid of that. It's kind of coming at us, so it's kind of sketching perspective I want. Come off of here and see how that looks. Like drawing hands in different positions, and it takes a lot of practice. I don't think they're difficult to draw. Actually, that doesn't look too terrible. My whole thing, the struggle I have is I never know kind of what to do with them. I can never think of what position to put them in, I guess. That's kind of the hardest part for me, is trying to decide that. The actual drawing of them's pretty simple once you... Again, it takes a lot of practice. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's not hard. It's one of the harder parts of the anatomy to draw. Hands, feet, and faces generally seem to be what throw people the most. So with a little bit of practice, I mean, and just constantly working on it, you'll eventually figure out what needs to go where, and kind of the how-tos of it, I guess. Or for me, it's just recognizing benchmarks or key points of the hand to make it look right. But again, it's just trying to figure out what position to put them in. That's really the hardest part for me. That'll be good enough. I can clean it up in the inks again. And I keep saying that. I mean, to me, inking and penciling is two different mindsets. It's two different skill sets. And there's things when I'm excuse me, inking something, it's a, you know, I do things a little bit differently. I mean, the way I move the pen, or the two, you know, in this case the stylus, the way I treat the stylus or the things I do with it is a little bit different than if I were to, when I'm working in Photoshop with the pencil. I don't know, again, I think it's just, quite frankly, a different mindset to a different skill set. And sometimes, you know, I screw myself, and I think I have something fleshed out enough in the pencils that I don't, and it takes me a little bit of work, a little bit more work to get it figured out in the inks. But you know, it is what it is. You know, it's how I do things, for better or for worse. But there's just times it doesn't seem, at least for me, it doesn't seem worth rendering out a pencil drawing so far just to go back and trace it. Quite frankly, I get kind of bored when I do that. Like, I've done very, very tight pencils and then gone back and inked over them. And it's just, you know, you can zone out and kind of do the ink, you know, just ink without any thought, which sometimes is nice, but I just find it tedious and boring if I go into too much detail in the pencil work just to ink myself. If I was going to ink or if I was going to have somebody else ink, I would, you know, that's a different story. Because, like, all in here where this is getting in the fire and getting burnt up and tore up, I'm going to do some cross-hatching to show kind of the fact that it's being scorched and what have you. And it'll be kind of random and what have you. Just because, you know, fire doesn't really have a pattern. It's actually one of the harder things to draw, just because it's easy and it's hard all at the same time, because there's no set way to do it, but at the same time, it's very easy to kind of screw up. I recently saw a piece that someone had drawn with fire in it, and they did it as one big solid bulk shape, and it didn't look right because it just looked flat, I guess. It didn't look like fire. Fire gets to, goes over top of and in front of and behind, and um, it's got depth to it, especially if you want it to look like it's raging out of control. If you do it too uniform or one big shape, it's just it won't look right. And you'll see kind of what I'm talking about later when I get down to that part of the drawing. This would be tore up as well. It doesn't follow the perspective I'm kind of going for here. Sorry, I was kind of looking at her face and I was wondering if maybe I should change the angle of it, have her kind of more head down looking out, but I think if I did that, her hair is going to interfere with what I'm trying to do here, so I think it's fine with just a straight on shot. Should have cleaned my screen before I got to work today. Oh well, make do. So as I mentioned in my last, I don't think it was the last video, I think I did Atrocitus last time, but you can go check out. I was actually really proud and happy with the way that that picture came out. But a couple videos ago I was talking about vampires and all this, and I had drawn a Count Orlok from Nosferatu. And I've still been kind of on a vampire film and kick and what have you. And just recently, I'm about to finish up watching through True Blood again, that HBO show. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but well, it's one of my favorite shows, and really, and you know, I like the way they treated the vampires in that. Or handled them, I guess. Is a little, you know, it's not Twilighty. It's not really even Anne Rice. A little more violent than Anne Rice, I think. But you know, you get enough vampire characters in there where you get to do a lot of different archetypes. And again, if you haven't seen it or plan to, there might be some spoilers about what I'm about to say here. But there's one of the main characters is Bill, Vampire Bill, who was played by Stephen Moyer, I believe. Who I think is actually married to Anna Paquin now. And as you know, you don't notice. It's kind of funny what you start to notice when you watch some of your favorite shows not only over again, but when you binge them. Because again, I've been watching it for about 2 weeks, just devouring the seasons as I'm sitting and working. And kind of the funny thing about that show is again, if you haven't seen the end or the final episode, or I mean, it's been several years since the show went off the air, but the kind of the overarching plot of the entire 6 or 7 season run they had was the love affair between Bill and Sookie, or Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer. And in the final episode, again, if you haven't seen it or want to see it or whatever, this is going to be pretty big spoilers, but Bill does not survive the show. But the funny thing is, at least to me, is if you watch them over and over again, all they have done through 7 seasons of that goddamn show was try to kill that character. It seemed like every other week he was thought to be dead, and turns out he's not, and never turned out he died. It was just kind of weird. It's kind of one of those. I'll pull it, zoom out so you guys can kind of see where I'm at here. But it was just kind of weird because to think that he was ever going to survive the show is kind of nuts, because all they did for 7 seasons was just create some kind of false jeopardy of him being dead. It's kind of, so, I don't know, as I was watching it just kind of dawned on me, and just, it's like, as much as I love the show, there is just a point where how many times you can employ the same plot device before it starts getting old. So, like I said, they must have done it really well, because it wasn't something I really noticed when I was watching it live, as the seasons came out on HBO and whatnot. But yeah, they just kept trying to kill that guy over and over again. Now, these lines in her dress, I'm just kind of placeholders until I get to inks. And I want him to look a little bit. I mean, it's a nice gown, and when I drew it in the book, it was flowy and smooth, clean, pretty lines. But with this, I kind of want them to not be quite so smooth, so it looks like it's being destroyed, and it's in a kind of a bad situation here. Get her. Again, feet are kind of tough. I'm going to try something here. I'm not sure it'll work, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's see how it looks once I get most of it in here. Looks okay, but I need to bring it up here just a little. Maybe a little bit bigger too. Not too much, but a little bit. Alright. Something I noticed when looking up reference of people walking, or the first time I really noticed it was when I did a piece for the book I was somewhat attached to for a little while that went away pretty quick over monetary compensation. Was did a pinup of this character walking at us, and there's a big foot in the foreground. When you actually step, your toes kind of curl up as they go heel to toe. So let's see how that looks here. Because in army boots and other footwear you tend to do that, but never tried it with a bare foot before. Well, it doesn't look too terrible. Zoom out here. Looks kind of alright. But I'll probably add ink spatter and stuff, and more rendering to her feet, especially the bottom, to look like they're scorched or dirty or covered in ash and what have you. Got her other leg back here. Render those toes out a little bit more in the inking stage. Alright, so we're going to add some pieces of her dress here that are kind of flying away as they're being burnt and ripped apart and destroyed. Just kind of make shapes, nothing. Try to, again, this like fire is kind of both really easy and kind of difficult, just because you want to make sure you're not repeating your same shapes over and over again. I'll add some to the dress, and a lot of this might actually go away once I get into the fire, because even though there's going to be a black background, you'll see when I get into the inking video that I'm going to do ink spatter to be like embers and other flyaway stuff, as far as kind of how I draw fire. Okay. Yeah, just a little bit here. So I don't do too much, and I don't do too much at this stage, and it'll probably change once I get it into inks. But these are just, again, pencils for me are just guidelines. Just it's basically one giant reminder of what I want it to be. Zoom out, try to show you what it looks like at this stage here. Doesn't look too terrible. Kind of usable. Alright, so make another layer. We'll work on our hair here. Now again, if I was doing this traditionally, I would just, at this point, if I wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do with the hair, I'd get a piece of tracing paper, put it over top, figure it out, then light box it back on if I felt the need to. I'm not too terribly sure what I want to do with the hair here yet. I don't know how, basically I don't know how far up I want it to go, because if I do that it kind of looks weird. Bring it maybe more down and out and flare it up here. Because she has these bangs and the rest is tied back into a ponytail. And hair kind of, again, is the hard part is to try and randomize it, but also keep it looking like a cohesive piece of hair. You know, hair kind of falls in clumps and follows each other to an extent. Let me sketch in kind of the rest of her hair flying out, see if that helps matters any. 'Cause right now I'm not really digging that, but we'll see what happens if I get the rest of it in there. That's not good at all. Hmm. And to be quite, then to be honest, probably one way or the other I will post this video, just because I needed some content, but I didn't send them any real layouts or, I expressed the idea I wanted to do, but I didn't send them any roughs or anything. So this is just kind of me doing what I like and hopefully they like. So even though I'm doing this, it might not be the cover that's going to end up on the book if they don't like this, but they seem to like overall mostly what I do anyway, so hopefully this will all work out for the best. Let's zoom out and take a look here. Whoop. Oh, got my pen there. It doesn't look too terrible. Actually looked kind of good, so we'll tighten up the hair now. I'll take the pencils, I'll drop down the opacity just a bit. Call this there the hair. Let's see what we can do here. So again with hair, if you find the big clumps, because it does, if you go through and draw every individual strand of hair, it's gonna take forever. Two, it just doesn't read as well as if you were to do it like I'm doing here with these clumps, and then you can always add more strands here and there if necessary. But you do want them to fall kind of in front of, behind, and so on and so forth. And make them look somewhat independent of each other, but also you want it to look somewhat cohesive. You don't want just a big mess. And I'm not liking that at all. Let's try this again here. Maybe if it gets a little more curl to it rather than what I was trying to do. Let's see how that works. And with this character, this part of her hair is usually tucked behind her ears, so I don't draw it coming out like this. So this is, again, something I'm not used to drawing. That looks better. I kind of like that. Not used to. I mean, you get used to drawing a character a certain way, and you the more you do it, the more you figure out kind of how stuff works, and kind of feel like you know what the character's going to do, and how their look. The look becomes easier to draw the more you do it. But sometimes when you're like this, where you change it, you have to change your thinking about the character a little bit. At least for me. Maybe that's not true for everyone, but I got so used to drawing her hair one way that now that I have to change it, it's taken me a little bit to just figure out kind of how to do it. I'll actually bring this up here. Let's see. Turn that off. Let me come in here. Don't mind the shape. Let's just kind of extend it out just a little bit. That looks okay. Again, this is all pulled back. We got this ponytail bunch back here. The hair's going to come off of there. And this stuff is just kind of trying to find cool shapes and patterns. And again, something I'm not doing real successfully at the moment is trying not to repeat the same shapes over and over again. And in some cases, like with this, especially with hair, at least for me, when there's I don't like this upper bit here. If there's that actually looks alright. If there's more lines in here, when I get to inking, odds are I won't ink every one of these lines, but it'll give me enough to choose from to decide what I want, what I don't want, and I can go from there. Again, inking just to save time, just so I can. Again, since I'm going to ink this kind of loosey, kind of on the fly, I'm going to bring this over, just copy this, bring it over here. And again, when I ink this, I won't follow those lines to a T. So the sides will start looking more asymmetrical. They won't look quite so uniform when I get done inking it. Turn the pencils back up here. Turn that off and see here. Looks pretty good. So get rid of that. Come in here. Grab my lasso and pencils and get rid of this stuff that's going to be covered up by her hair. Delete that out. Open back up. And that looks pretty good. So we'll collapse that down. So all we got left now is the fire. So again, I'm going to turn the pencils down. Zoom in and start kind of working in some fire. Now again, fire's it's difficult and it's easy all at the same time because it is just kind of shapes. But at the same time, you have to make sure it looks like fire. I guess, again, it kind of is one of those things that there's no particular way to draw fire. There's some artists that do it better than others. There's some that certainly have a distinct way of doing it, but you ever kind of just sit and watch a fire, or if you're out. I've been forced to go camping in the past few years, and I am not a camper. I am an indoor cat, I like my air conditioning in my bed. I don't understand wanting to sleep outside, so. But last time I was on the camping trip, the thing that I wasn't allowed to take my sketchbook or, watch anything on my phone or whatever. Which is fine. I mean, it's good to get away from work and phone and spend some time with your loved ones, but personally for me, there's better ways to do that than camping. Especially in July or August in Nebraska when it's 100 and some degrees outside. And last time we went for 3 days. I spent 3 days sweating. I did not really enjoy myself too much. So right now, I'm not too worried about the fire per se as much as I am just the composition of the fire. Where it's going to go, make sure it's going to work and look kind of cool. So again, if we pull out, see, I don't know how high up I want it to go. I kind of think just knee high is pretty damn good. It'll sell the point, I think. I wonder if I kind of make it more directional here to where it's kind of pointing at her, kind of draw that focus in. Kind of makes it look kind of like a witch burning without the posts. But I think once colored, it'll really sell the effect I'm going for. Maybe have it trail off a little bit more up to the sides. I think that looks alright. So we're going to get rid of that. Turn this blue. Call this fire. Now I'm going to do this, at least the way I'm planning, is I'm going to do this in stages. Because again, if you draw fire as one big bulk shape, it tends to look flat and it just doesn't work. So I'm going to start with what would be more or less the mid-ground of the fire, then I'm going to do some in front and then maybe some behind. We'll see how that works out. So we'll just start with that thought process and see where it takes us. And again, always try to, again, draw shapes and try your best not to repeat yourself too much. And that will kind of sell the effect of the randomness that fire tends to have. And when fire kind of gets going and is kind of raging, I guess, for lack of a better term, it tends to kind of come apart and little licks of it fly away and then burn out. And so make sure you kind of have these pieces coming off here that aren't attached to the rest of the mess you got going on down here. And the problem is because I'm right-handed, I tend to want to go like that rather than that for some reason. So I always have to be very aware that I'm not going always to the left. Some of these tailing off to the right kind of look. Again, fire just in general is always kind of a pain in the ass, whether you're drawing it, inking it, coloring it. It's kind of, again, kind of like hair or water. It all tends to fit together, but at the same time, there's a inherent randomness that you're trying to achieve. And again, when I get into inking, um, I'll add spatter effects inside and around and stuff to make it look like embers are flying away from it and the clothes are burning and flying and all that good stuff. So we're going to make this kind of trail inward now. And kind of pointing at her so that she still remains the main focus of the piece. But again, just for having issues, drawing stuff like fire or hair, hands, or whatever, feel free to go look up reference. It's going to be, it's learning to draw from life is your best reference you can find. And then just try and interpret it the best way you can. I mean, when learning to draw people or hands or buildings or cars or what have you, you do have the benefit of tracing, where you can, if you're looking at a picture, I've run into the problem, and I have this problem a lot. Just again to save time, I'm just going to copy this and rotate it. Again, just because since it's going to be pretty loose and I'm going to ink it where I won't do this flipping around stuff, it won't look quite as symmetrical as it does right here. But this is, again, just to save me a little bit of time because I'm trying to get this done in a timely manner for them. But kind of what I was saying is I run into the problem as to where even if I'm looking at a photo reference, there's just sometimes even though I'm looking at a picture, I just can't quite figure out what I'm doing wrong. So sometimes I'll trace it, and then once I trace it, I'll be able to see what I'm doing wrong. And then, next time I won't have that problem. Or next time I'll kind of have a better idea of what I'm trying to do. So I'm going here and erase this. Erase her from behind this. Turn her back up here. Forgot this down here. Actually, it might be kind of cool. Come back in here and give her back her legs. Come in on this fire and kind of take away this part around her foot. And instead go around it like this. You can see that she's actually kind of walking through it, not just standing in it. At least I hope. We'll see what happens here once I get rid of the rest of her here. Oop, wrong layer. We'll turn that back up. Just gonna have to add a few more down here so it looks like she's Might trail the fire down. So I'm just kind of thinking here. If I just keep maybe more of her leg in here. Or if I move her foot. Because it looks a little weird in that spot. Even though it should be right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back up here. And actually what I might do is just leave it. And then as I'm inking, I'll be a little more strategic with that fire. Now I've been working with these people for this whole issue, and they're kind of getting used to understand that the pencils are just kind of a guideline, and that I add a lot more during the inking. But to be honest, I kind of think I am done at this point. I know I said I was gonna do more fire, more layers of it and what have you. But I think I'll just save that for the next video when I get the inks, because if I go into too much more detail and they don't approve this design, there's just not a lot of point in going forward to spend more time on this at this point. So one last thing is I'll put all my X's back here so they know this is all going to be black, and also for myself to know this is all going to be black in here. Alright, so I'm going to wrap this up here, call this good, and I will finish it up in the next video, which will be, of course, the inking process. So thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I hope you like it. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links are in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.